Hello, my name is Laureen and welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. This is my reading list, or books to be read. I guess there's not really a list that exists, and I have no real time frame attached to this, but I was hoping to get through some of it before the end of 2019. However, there's still plenty to read. The top pile is what I am currently reading. I have two books from Persephone Press, which I'll talk about on another video, and I'm reading Homegoing by Gayasi, which is really very interesting, having a great time with it. Nothing to say about it yet. A.S. Bayet's book Ragnorak is turning into something, The End of the Gods. I have almost no opinion on this because almost nothing is happening, but it is part of what I'm reading for book club. We'll be meeting on Monday night, so I'll have more to say about that one after I've heard what other people say. And I've just started suggested reading by Dave Connis, which is for another book club, and I've only got a couple pages into it, so not much to say about it yet. This is the pile that I did manage to read, and some of them were good, and some of them were super not good. A Short History of Tractors in Ukraine by Marina Luakia, I guess. She was shortlisted for the Orange Prize, which I believe has turned into the Women's Prize. I have to double check that. It was also nominated for the Man Booker Prize. And it's a story about a family who has an elderly father who has decided it would be a good idea to bring in a woman who needs a British citizenship from the Ukraine, and how everything kind of goes to hell in a handbasket from there. I was bored. Another one, Call of the Wraith, is the fourth book in the series by Kevin Sands. It is, I would say, a middle reader's book for sort of ages, I don't know, 10 to 16. I've enjoyed it quite a bit. It is the fourth book, so it's a great series, and since everything's out, it's worth following through on. I think there will be others, so I think I can talk about that one as a unit. Oh, there's the cat. I knew she'd video bomb this. Okay, Polly Horvath is a great writer for middle readers. She's got a great wit. She's got a lovely sense of family, and this cat never does this. People say that about their pets all the time. This animal never does this, when in fact they do it all the time, so I'm a liar. Polly Horvath wrote Very Rich. She's written other ones that I've really enjoyed, The Canning Season, and Everything on a Waffle, The Trolls, The Circus Came to Town. And I had just also read by her The Happy Yellow Car, which is a bit of a silly thing, where a family dad in the Depression era finds the money that is being hidden for one of the girls' college education and buys a big yellow car, and the crazy stuff that happens as a result of this car. It's a good one. It's definitely a middle reader, and it's the kind of book that if you're feeling down in the dumps, Polly Horvath is exactly the author you want to go for. Very Rich is a completely different kind of a book about a poor family, and a young boy has bumped into a sort of an older classmate who comes from a very rich family and shows up at Christmas time, and the poor boy ends up embroiled, I would say, in the shenanigans that the rich family do on Christmas. And then there are consequences around that he continues to have experiences with the rich family, and zany experiences. And I think, you're not sure until the very end if things are going to work out well for the poor lad named Rupert. And there's suspense in there too, simply because you don't know where you're going to go. And I felt hungry the whole way through. This lad never gets a meal. It always seems to be swept out from under him. So she did a very good job of comic tension. And let's see, Just Mercy is by Brian Stevenson. It's a story of justice and redemption coming out of the United States, mostly about the area of Alabama, the prison system, the judicial system that supports an insane prison system. I'm not sure if I'm going to go see the movie because there's a lot of opportunity for sensationalization in the world of Hollywood and this book. I would say that the book is probably going to be better simply because the main storylines, if in the movie, I'm not sure they can get the depth of what has happened to these people as they end up becoming incarcerated, most of them innocent, or if not innocent, children. So for whatever reason, they may have committed a crime knowingly or unknowingly when they were around the ages of 11 to 13. Perhaps they've had mental health issues. Perhaps they have situations like Down syndrome or other situations related to birth problems. And they commit the crime and they're tried as adults and end up in horrific prison situations. So I don't think the movie is going to go into that too deeply, but this is quite a stunning book and really an eye-opener, especially as Canadian. We have got a different kind of prison system. It's not nearly as corrupt or as cruel, but it's not that far off. So it's a good eye-opener. I really recommend it. It's nonfiction, of course, and I stuck with it. It was really, in fact, no, that's not true. About halfway through, I was so traumatized by some of the stories that the children had experienced that I had to take a break. It really is tough, some of the things that happen to people. So I did take a break, but I came back to it, and I'm glad I did. And this book is called Coral. It's by Sarah Ella, and it has not been released yet. It is a retelling or a revisioning of The Littlest Mermaid, but that's not very accurate in the sense that mermaids are involved and mental health issues are involved, suicide. It's a bit of a tough read. The characters are materialistically well provided for, but their families are pretty yucky places to be, and so particularly one of the young girls is suicidal at a very young age. So it's on those stories and the theme of the ocean and mermaids and escape and using storytelling to help get through trauma are all some of the themes. This is also for a book club, a different book club that I go to. It's at the Woozles bookstore for children, and the members are adults who love reading young adult literature. So some of us, this is sort of an extra book. It's not part of the usual routine because it is an advanced reading copy, so only some people opted into reading this book. So I'll be curious to see what people have to say about that. And finally, the book that I read was Flowers for Algernon. This is an oldie. Daniel Keyes is the author, and it's quite a book. I guess I first bumped into it. It was published in 1959 and 1966, both times, and I remember reading it or part of it in high school, so that would have been in the 70s. And it is following the story of lad Charlie, who has had some kind of birth anomaly that gives him very low IQ, significantly low IQ. And he manages to function in society, but it's a struggle. And he really relies heavily on adults around him who have opted into being kind and somewhat playing in the role of a guardian. However, his mother was bonkers, and so he also is struggling with, I would say, PTSD. I don't think it would have been described as such in the 60s or even recognized very well. I think at that point people only who had been in big harmful situations like the army or an attack of some sort would have been allowed to have PTSD. Childhood trauma would not have been a trigger, I think, in a lot of people's minds. So he's suffering from both, and through his one of his teachers who's trying to him to learn how to read, he's identified as someone who is a good candidate for a research project that's ongoing, and they've decided they want to take the research out of the world of rats. The rat in this story is Algernon, and they're going to do the procedures on a human subject. And because Charlie is who he is, he's considered good. He's ambitious in his own little way, and determined. So those are the two main reasons that he's chosen. The other is that he really doesn't have any family, and so there aren't any sort of distractions or guardians to protect him from what may come his way. They recognize it's going to be a dangerous operation, and they don't have any idea what its success rate will be or its lasting rate. And this cat was sound asleep when I started. Anyhow, one of the reasons I read it was I was with my massage therapist, and we were talking about other books that we had read in high school. She's younger than I am, and I think I can't remember if it was Death of a Salesman or Waiting for Godot that the other classes in English were reading, and for some reason, she doesn't know why, her class was the only class in the high school that was reading Flowers for Algernon, and I thought the title was so hilarious, Flowers for Algernon. I just laughed and laughed through that massage. I thought, I've got to read that. I mean, what could possibly be in a book named Flowers for Algernon that would have any points of discussion? Oh, this book is laden with points of discussion, not the first of which is the ethics of performing surgical procedures on people who don't really have a good grasp of the consequences of what they're signing up for. So certainly some medical and scientific ethics are part of it, but Charlie, at the end of the surgery, just becomes smarter and smarter, and so we see his progress in the form of progress reports as he writes about how his spelling improves, his reading improves, his comprehension improves, and it gets to the point where he's exceeding the skill sets and the knowledge sets of the people who performed the surgery and the research team. And then what's happening simultaneously is that the rat is peaking and able to do his mazes and his little tasks quite well, and then slowly starts to falter. And the question then becomes, will Charlie falter as well? Will he regress? And one thing that's not really taken into account is the lifespan of a rat compared to the lifespan of a human. So it's a little bit false in that premise. If the rat's lifespan is 3 years and he's managed to be significantly intelligent for 60% of that, then certainly Charlie's improvements should have lasted longer than they did. It's less than a year that all this happens. And so we're also exploring Charlie's relationships to the people that he knew before the surgery, after the surgery, and he has many, many difficult and challenging things ahead of him in terms of becomes quite moralistic and questions things, and he doesn't really know how to approach people any more than he knew how to approach people before the surgery because he's socially incompetent. And he doesn't really get any guidance. He's left. One of the other interesting things for discussion is just how he wasn't terrifically supported socially or, well, materialistically he was well looked after, but in terms of how he was coping in society and integrated into it and so forth, those things didn't especially happen. And so he's left on his own devices, and then he encounters alcohol. So eventually chaos reigns. And without giving out the end of the book, it's quite an interesting arc of character development, and the crisis is really slow. There's no real crisis point. He has a few real goof-ups socially, but they don't exactly trigger anything except for more questions. So I think this is the best book that I've read so far since the beginning of December, and that's out of about 10 books. I guess the other book I'm still in the middle of reading is another fun book, The Adventurer's Guide to Treasure and How to Steal It by Wade Albert White, and this is a middle reader as well. One of the reasons I like the middle readers is there's definitely characters, there's definitely a plot, there's definitely action, there's not a whole lot of navel-gazing, which I totally enjoy, and I just want to occasionally be entertained. Middle reader books definitely entertain. And this is the third in a series. It's about, where did she go? What's her name now? I just lost her name. I should know what it is. Anne has been on 2 previous adventures with her buddies Penelope and Hero, and she's on quests. And this particular quest was one that she was not looking for. It kind of fell upon her. A fellow student triggers a quest, and this fellow student turns out to be the daughter of pirate, really weird pirate, half human, half octopus, another half machine, and they're looking for the old world. This is taking place in a world that is not really post-apocalyptic. Certainly that happened at a point, but this is way beyond it. So it's the old technology still somewhat exists, but people nowadays don't really understand it. So there seems to be, there's dragons, so that's always cool. And there's magic, there's technology, and the kids just lurch from bad situation to bad situations, and the adults around them are somewhat incompetent, but manage to occasionally come to the rescue. And I'm halfway through, so I think this is a good series for younger readers. It's also a good series for if you like a little bit of silly science fiction. This is a great book to start into. The first one was The Adventurer's Guide to Successful Escapes, and the second one in the book is The Adventurer's Guide to Dragons and Why They Keep Biting You. So it was cute. It is cute. So that's it for me right now. Have no idea how long this took. Have no idea what the technical success was, whether the volume was high enough, but if you've got any feedback, I'd love to hear it. And we've got a whole bunch more books. I belong to 2 book clubs, so there's always books being suggested from them. And I have a very bad habit of ordering more books from the library. That's this pile over here. They came in since that pile was created, so there's always something going on. And I do quite a lot of book-related things. There should be quite a lot of stuff to talk about, and I'm thinking of doing a tour of our great library here in Halifax, where we can take a look at an amazing building with great content. Thanks very much, and I'll see you again.